Hey guys, week 6 is here of studying and teaching the Bible. Um, I'm going to basically just make sure you understand everything that's going on. There's not a whole lot of new stuff to learn. But here in week 6, the main idea is that, well, you're reading CBT chapters 13 and 20, so there is some reading. And the dynamic that you're focusing on this week is writing the lesson plan. So assignment 4, which isn't due this week, week 6, is due week 7. So this week, the focus is your sharpening up what you're going to teach to your group, and then it's week 7 then that you do the teaching, and then turn it in. Basically you're turning in your final lesson plan teaching assignment. Now here's where there could potentially be some confusion. You already had to do a lesson plan, right? Individual lesson plan. You construct a lesson plan based on these things, right? And then you filled it out and so forth. So I'm back here in week 5. So last week you had your lesson plan template, right? And then you had the grading guide and so forth. Week 6, you've also got basically the same stuff going on. Final lesson plan teaching. Notice if you open that bad boy up, it's not actually a new template, right? It's just the final lesson plan scoring guide. So basically, this is how it's going to be graded. So you've got these things. Well, these things are a little bit new. 2 things you do to improve the lesson. If you can teach it again, that sort of thing. Even that's showing you how you're going to be graded. Those are the evaluation questions. I'm going to get to that in a second. Then this is the big thing: the stake self-evaluation form. So open that up. I don't know why that's taking so long to open up. Here you go. Okay, and so this is the main thing that you're turning in after you do your lesson for next week. Expected learning antecedents, actual learning antecedents, and then expected learning transactions. Hook, book, look, took. Expected learning outcomes and actual learning outcomes. So this is essentially we're evaluating how your lesson went. You're evaluating yourself. Right? So there's no way for me to evaluate you. I'm not watching your lesson. So this is all in your reading workbook stuff. So find what these learning antecedents are. That's part of the assignment, right? So what are these things that you're expecting to accomplish with the learning? And then did those things actually happen? So what did actually happen in terms of the learning? The transactions of the HBLT stuff. This is what you expected to do. You're summarizing basically your outline there, right? And then what actually happened. And then the overall learning outcomes, what was the outcome of the learning supposed to be, what you wanted to happen, and then what actually happened. And then what were 2 strengths in teaching the lesson? What were 2 weaknesses in teaching the lesson? If you were to teach it again, what one thing would you do to improve the presentation? Now, here's what I don't want you to do. You're not going to get a better grade because you're not honest on here. Most of the time, what we're really going to be grading is your lesson plan show that you had a good grasp of what you were supposed to do. Whether you actually pulled it off, that's the whole learning process. And what we're seeing is you basically be able to reflect back, ask these questions, and be honest about them. So, for instance, if you were like expected learning transaction with the hook, I showed this clip from this movie that was supposed to draw them in and calm them down and give them a nice tie-in to the book of Jonah because it had this beautiful imagery, blah, blah, blah. What actually happened was they just goofed off and started making fun of the movie, and then by the time I got to my book section, they were all loud and crazy, and they didn't, this is, obviously I'm pretending like you had a bunch of juveniles that you were teaching to. Obviously you wouldn't have the same issue if you were doing adults or adult-like people. But the point is you can show that you didn't do anything wrong by using a video, right? We said you could do something like that, but you're learning how maybe you can better set it up. Maybe certain types of video or clips don't work for certain audiences. They're all different things, and we can help you with that. But this is you're not necessarily going to be marked down for that, but it's showing that you're learning from your expected stuff to what actually happened. And that's the only thing that we can really do. If for instance you said I didn't do it, that means because you can't fill that out without lying. So I skipped over it, or I never really found one. I said I was going to do this, but then I didn't. We would mark you off if you didn't actually do it unless there was a good reason. Let's say, for instance, I was planning to have 30 minutes for my lesson, and because of X, Y, and Z, they gave me 10 minutes. So I had to cut something out. That's understandable, but that's going to happen to almost none of you. So anyway, that's what we're looking for there. Be honest. Don't worry about you getting marked down because you're being honest of what actually happened. In fact, the more we're seeing you understanding what was meant to happen versus what actually happened shows that you got the lesson right. So you're not going to be actually marked down because of anything here, but just be honest with that. Okay. So again, you don't. I'm still going to recommend you turning in your lesson plan. It's basically the same one because some of you are going to change it and update it. And when we're grading, I want to at least be able to see what was the lesson plan you went with. So we're not going back and grading the lesson plan from week 5 when you turn in the lesson plan week 7, but you do turn in the same one. Turn in the one that you taught with. It shows exactly what you taught with, because I know that a lot of you are going to tweak things from where you were at with week 5 with where you're at in week 7 after you did the lesson. So still turn in the final lesson plan. The grading guide isn't necessarily, as usual, these grading guides. I don't care if you turn them in, but you need to know that that's how we're doing the grading, how the grading breaks down. You do need to turn in this self-evaluation form that I just showed you. On top of that, if I'm going to post this again this week, but if you look back on my announcements, sorry, it's not in week 5 folder, but in my announcements from week 5, I mention these questions, evaluation questions here, right? So I do want you to turn these in. Again, you won't turn them in this week. You'll turn them in after you do your lesson, but it's just another way for us to help with the grading. And those evaluation questions here are here, and I'm not going to go through them right now, but again, it's just another mode of us to get some feedback from you after doing the lesson. And that's really what we're looking for, is that we can see that you did it, that you learned something from it, and ways to improve, and that sort of thing. So that is what's going on in what you turn in for week 7. I'll post that again this week, but you don't actually turn anything in here in week 6, which is nice on some regards. Nothing is turned in week 6. You turn everything in week 7. So I'll remind you again next week, but be thinking through those things as you do your lesson, because that's what you want to to be targeting. People are emailing me and or Facebooking me or calling if we need to talk about the lesson or situations that are coming up with whether it's timing or the size of the group or it wasn't what you expected or blah blah blah. So please contact me if you have any questions on how to do things. Other than that, you guys will do great, and enjoy this. I know this will be the first time a lot of you do a formal Bible study lesson that you have spent this much time really breaking down and doing sound Bible study with and teaching it to a group of people. So enjoy it, but don't put pressure on yourselves. This is the first time. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to flow perfectly, but the Lord uses every last effort we give Him along these endeavors. So enjoy it and don't take it for granted. And I love you all. Talk to you soon.